Hi everybody. Okay, so today's video is gonna be about my experience that I had today doing the Out of Darkness walk. The Out of Darkness walk is actually a suicide prevention and awareness walk by the American, let me get this right because I don't want to mess it up, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Um, and so first let me start by saying my mother and I both walked the walk, and it was a very emotional experience, which suicide in and of itself is a very much taboo topic amongst people, especially minorities. And I do kind of want to touch on that part really quick because the lack of diversity that I saw in the walk was overwhelming. There was a few sprinklings of people here and there, and it could have been just the area in which the walk took place. The area that it took place is in St. Petersburg, Florida, which the demographic there tends to be more white people than any other race. But also, it really does speak to the fact that there is a stigma amongst minorities in discussing mental illness and suicide specifically. So, first, let me start with the beginning of the journey. When you do these type of walks, if you've ever done any type of cancer walk or sickle cell anemia walk or anything like that, everybody knows that you set up a fund and a goal, and you say, hey, you try and get support from your friends, your peers, your coworkers, and whatnot, the community. Because really what I wanted to do, since I am going into this field, is really take part in community organizations and foundations that really affect people in the mental health profession. So, the lack of support that I received, the lack of donations, the lack of people. I mean, like, I was like, you don't even have to donate. Just come out and walk. Like, just be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. So then that way, the people that really are suffering or have lost somebody recently or even in years past, that they can just see the visualization of bodies standing there representing, we are one, we are with you in this struggle, in this fight, in this grief, in this moments that you are having a struggle. But I couldn't get anybody that actually wanted to participate. My mom even asked people, and one of her so-called friends, like, we always go to all of her stuff. Okay, I'm not even kidding. Her response was, I don't think I can make it because I'm trying to win tickets on the radio. People, you hate to say it, but people suck sometimes. And it really speaks volumes to even how lonely you can feel. And it actually speaks to what gets people to the point of wanting to take their own lives. It's the loneliness, it's the depression, it's you feel like there's no hope, there's nothing more for you to give, and there's nothing more that anybody else can take from you. So I'm wearing my shirt, Be the Voice, Suicide, Stop Suicide, and my little registration sticker. But it was really disappointing to be in this field and really wanting to get community members to be supportive of me being in this field, and the lack of support. Unfortunately, I'm not surprised, but you would like to think that you would actually have people that want to support you, even if they're not able to financially support the walk. At least come out and be present. That's all that most people want anyways. Yes, we want to raise the money, we want to raise the awareness. I donated quite a bit of money, and the money that I donated, it actually goes towards helping bring awareness onto college campuses, because a lot of people that are coming out of the military, that are, it's all these pivotal points in your life. Like, you're a teenager, those are pivotal points where people feel they're just by themselves, secluded, down and out. You have people that are in college that feel like, oh, I have the whole world ahead of me, but yet I still feel like I don't know myself. I'm unsure. I don't feel like I fit in anywhere. And then you have our military, where PTSD is extremely high, and unfortunately, veterans are not taken care of the way that they should. A lot of times they get discharged, they get a quick overlook, they might get held on a 24-hour hold, they get released back out into the general population, and then there's no follow-up care. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. I've even interviewed a supervising mental health clinical counselor in my area, and that's her whole advocacy platform, is that the lack of support that the military gives to people that suffer from PTSD, although it is getting better, it still has so much more to get to the point where they're truly advocating within their own branches for the members that serve our country. So, sorry to go on that little rant. That's just, pet peeve, where you support the community, and of course I don't expect everybody to support everything that I support, but to say that you don't want to go somewhere because you want to stay at home and try and win like tickets to see a movie, I mean, like, come on, like, you have a job, you could pay for the tickets. Like, that's just ridiculous to me. That's just absolutely rude, and quite honestly, a person that's been written off, like, to never speak of again moving forward. So, when you go to the walk, you actually sign up. Me and my mom bought these shirts. And basically there is a stand where it has all the different beads. And the beads represent different parts of your suicide awareness or prevention, or your part in suicide. So my mother and I were wearing blue beads because those blue beads stood for that we are basically advocates for suicide awareness and prevention. So I'm just going to kind of read, and then I'll post a picture of what the beads stood for. But white, if you saw somebody wearing white, that meant that they lost their child. And, that is extremely hard when you look at somebody, and it's like the beads, although you are saying this is what I'm going through, it's like wearing your deepest emotion in beads. It's very powerful to walk around and you see different color beads and to see what they represent. So let me read these to you. So white is the loss of a child. Red is the loss of a spouse or a partner. Gold is the loss of a parent. Orange is the loss of a sibling. Purple is the loss of a relative or a friend. Silver is the loss of a responder or a first responder, excuse me. Green, a personal struggle or an attempt. Blue, support suicide, prevention. And then you have teal, a friend or family member of someone who struggles or has attempted. So there were people that were wearing multiple beads of multiple colors. So let me just tell you this. You could have somebody that is wearing a white set of beads, which means they lost their child. And then you could have somebody that's wearing, let's say, green, that you're currently struggling. I mean, so you look around and you see these people, and there's plenty of people around. Like one of the girls that I just happened to run into, we were trying to find our way to walk the path correctly, and she was just like talking to us, and I'm like, well, who did you walk with? Like,
are you just by yourself, or did you just lose your group? Because there was a lot of that going on. The path was just kind of weird. Like, it was really beautiful. I'll definitely add some of the pictures and video. It was right by the water, and the weather was perfect. You know, Florida. And she's like, no, I'm here by myself. I couldn't get anybody that wanted to walk with me. And so she was wearing a couple different color beads. She actually was an occupational therapist that works at one of the local hospitals here. And you know, one of her friends, when he was 30 years old, he was a first responder and well, in the military, and he committed suicide. You know, and what you tend to hear, like she said, is that he was happy. He would give, you know, his shirt off his back, and he would really make sure that he, you know, made sure people were happy. Well, you know, that really, happiness doesn't equal happy in their soul. And I know that sounds really juvenile, and it's kind of like, okay, what does that really mean? What it means is that you can have somebody that is laughing and joking with you in the morning, and in the afternoon kills themselves. That's the reality. Depression is a very evil thing. It is very debilitating. It's very just something that makes you feel secluded, alone, hopeless, dark. You can experience every emotion possible in 1 minute, and that's depression and anxiety. Sometimes the people that laugh and joke the most are the saddest. That's why sometimes you hear that comedians are some of the darkest people. It's because they suffer the most. So anyways, walking with this young lady, and found out she was an occupational therapist, and I told her I was going into the field. And you know, she told us her story about how her friend had taken his life. And then you hear other people, and they had a wall up. I didn't take the picture of the wall because I wanted to protect the privacy of the individuals that put up pictures and memories and statements of their loved ones that have taken their own lives. I didn't feel like that was appropriate to take pictures and then post it on this video. But I will post other pictures that do not expose people in that light. But you know, it's really touching to see people's pictures and the memories. And then some people, I mean, they just lost their loved ones less than a year ago, and here they are out here. Like, the strength that it takes to even want to grieve out loud by wearing beads and exposing something that's so sacred. It was just profound. But I really, really, really wanted to touch base on the fact that this is a very important part of mental health and awareness, and that I am planning on doing the walk again in December in Tampa. And I'm hoping to see a lot more people come out, although it's a big group. I just thought it was going to be a lot larger. They ended up raising 59,000, but that was just at that moment. You can still donate all the way until the end of December, I believe, which would be the walk that's in December in Tampa. And so that's huge to raise that much money, and there really wasn't a ton of people. I'd say probably about 100 to 200 people walking, but then again, you have to account for there are also the virtual walkers that were walking online and donated online as well, but couldn't attend. So but my biggest takeaway was that it doesn't matter where you're at in life. There's so many people that are going through similar struggles, that getting out into your community and really, you know, being a part and really taking advantage of not only just doing these walks, but getting involved, seeing where you can lend a hand, seeing where you can actually be a shoulder and be a comfort to somebody is very important, because it's not to say that these people would not have taken their lives if they had that, because then that negates the fact that they did have family and friends that did support them. Although there are a lot of people that take their lives that don't have that support or feel that they don't have the support that they need. But I think by doing these walks and really broadcasting them, allows people that are suffering, because I did see a lot of beads that represented people that were currently struggling. You know, being a counselor in training, that's really hard to see, because it's like one part of you really wants to help them seek somebody that can assist them, because you hate to have somebody that's in the midst of doing these walks and the next thing you know, what, in December or next year, this same time, that person's pictures on somebody else's back, or they're holding a poster saying like, you know, this is so and so, they took their life, but they were just at this walk last year. I mean, it's gut wrenching. I really wish that there were more people that could have attended of all cultural backgrounds, because I think that being able to raise awareness across every race, gender, nationality, ethnicity, anything that makes us different but makes us who we are, such amazing people when we come together and we really work to strive together to help one another, I think would have been great. So I that's one part of my advocacy, when I get into this field, and even before I get into this field, is really honing into the demographic of minorities, because I just feel like they could so benefit from these type of things. I think that especially in the African American community and the Latina community, is very much a stigma, like you don't talk about it, you know, that's a white people thing, which is absolutely ridiculous. Although the suicide rate amongst minorities is not as high, I feel like it's not reported as often, so that the statistics actually reflect the truth of mental health being a part of our communities. I think a lot of people assume that because, you know, we put on these tough exteriors that we're really tough, but that couldn't be further from the truth. We are soft, kind-hearted people that have emotions and feelings too, and I feel like that there needed to be a lot more Hispanics, Blacks, Asians, Indians, just across the board. I really wish when I go to these type of events and foundations that there was a lot more diversity, and I really put the onus on the communities that are the minorities. I mean, where are you? Where are you in these fights? Where are you in these struggles? Where are you in these communities? What are you doing? Why are you not coming out? I really, not to sound harsh, but I want to know. I have been to so many community events, not just in St. Pete because I just moved here, but people of color, where are you? Where are you making a difference in these communities? I mean, I understand that you can't be everywhere, and I'm not saying, oh, just because you didn't show up here doesn't mean you're not doing anything, and just because you don't see me doesn't mean I'm not doing anything. It's not an attack. It's a question. It's a question of where are we at in representation? Because even in my last video where I said I'm seeking to find a counselor for myself, finding a counselor that is not Caucasian is hard to do. And I don't care what anybody says, having representation is key to getting the help that you need. It is important. And don't let anybody tell you that it is not important, because there are certain aspects of being who you are that only people that go through the same things that you go through can actually understand and assist you. Sometimes you need to be able to voice what's happened to you without having to voice what's happened to you, and then explain why what happened to you was wrong, because then you become the teacher and the counselor all in your session, and you don't need that. And I am not saying that having a white counselor when you're a minority means they're not going to help you. So I do not want my words to be twisted. But what I am saying is that representation and understanding is very important for minorities. So I know I kind of went off the handle there, but it just really got me going when I looked around and I did not see representation. And it's not because you're being excluded from anything, it's because you're not showing up to show support, to show that we actually need to acknowledge that mental illness cannot be prayed away. It cannot be shoved under the carpet. It cannot just be put, oh, don't talk about it, or you can't whip it out of your children. I get sick of people acting like mental illness is something that's a white people problem, or a badass kid problem, or a you just don't know how to raise somebody problem. This mental illness is real. It's a neurobiological genetic disorder for many people, including yourselves. And it needs to be understood that you are no different than anybody else. You too could be out here walking for one of your loved ones. So I just want to leave that here, and take it however you want. But things like this just get me fired up when I don't see representation, because it is important to have diversity in everything and everything.